Power to the truth. This is Margo. This is Sunday, March the 17th, 2019, 5:14 p.m. Pacific Time, United States of America. So we have another day's worth of data from CAMS. Yesterday I showed you Monday, March 11th, and so now we have Tuesday, March the 12th data up from CAMS, and I've got the Arctic version and surface level view for today, and I already have the movie loaded up. But what we can see is this is where we left off at the end of Sunday with a large release to the east of Novaya Zemlya in the Kara Sea, a large release near and on the Yamal Peninsula, and then this release building and happening in Russia here, and then the RNG release coming out of the Arctic Ocean here, and then a little bit of a release out of Canada here. So let's run this movie and we can see what they've got cooking up there. You can see in the forecast period a lot more methane coming out of Russia. We had a little bit of a reprieve for about the last week or so, but it seems like the releases are building and coming back, and as the sun is coming up in the Arctic and the northern part of the world, the northern hemisphere, is tipping towards the sun, then we're going to have warming, and as this happens we're going to have methane release. And so it's just cycling, you know. It releases and then it builds and releases and builds, and so I think this is the pattern that we need to look for, and this is what we're going to be seeing. So here it was at the end of Tuesday. That's the day we're looking at, where it was releasing some more here in Siberia and in the the Kara Sea. So there's that. I've also got the global view pulled up, and I have this movie loaded up. This is methane surface level for Tuesday, March the 12th for global, so that you can see in your neck of the woods what kind of methane might be being released. We're seeing it's a big release coming out off the coast of China in the ocean there, and up north. This is across the border on into Russia. So Brazil, in the inner part of South America, they've got a lot. So there's that. So I also wanted to show you for people, if you're not following sulfur dioxide on a daily basis on CAMS, it can be misleading when you see something like this. This is from today, Sunday, March 17th, and I have the Pacific view up. So this is the United States over here. Here's Alaska. Here's China and Russia, and up here is the Kamchatka Peninsula, where we saw that release from the Methane volcano a couple of days ago. And I've been showing that and tracking that. I showed you the eruption on that yesterday. And the signature, when you have a volcanic release, the signature is like a shape of a comma, because it comes out so explosive, it comes pretty much in a straight line. And so when you see something like this, you want to go back a day or two or before you saw the big release, the big red blob here, because right now, if I didn't have any past data to go on, I would think, oh, there's a big release coming out of the Aleutian Islands here, but by seeing the swirl up here into the Arctic and the swirl up here, then you can look back, and this doesn't look like a signature for a volcano release to me, with an explosive thing. So, but you do have continuing release from something like Popocatépetl, but it's not that huge like that, and continued release from Hawaii, and we've got a lot of volcanoes going off around the Ring of Fire, but not like what we saw over here at Bezimiani a couple of days ago. So what you can do is go back day by day, and once it loads up, you have to go back down at the bottom of the chart here too. So here it was from Saturday, so from yesterday, and so I think that was the day we saw it, that it released. So we can go back to Friday just to play it safe. And we can see on Friday there was no big red release up here. There's some releasing down here in southern Alaska, but that's we've been seeing that, and I'm thinking that's earthquake related. It can be some volcano, but it's mainly earthquake. You can also run the movie. So from Friday, where we didn't see anything, so the only data that's here where it says Friday is for Friday, and then it goes into the forecast period, so it doesn't have the Saturday blast when you run the movie. This is taking its time. I'll close some of these out. So I think you get the picture there. There's no red there. And then when you go forward, but see, there was red in Hawaii. That was probably volcanic and earthquake related, because there have been earthquakes down there. So then you move to Saturday, and here's the signature. In that, it looks like a big exclamation point, where it's pointing from where it came out, and then it spreads out where the plume comes out. So, and then when you run that movie, see if anything will happen. You see it moving across to the east, and we saw in the volcano report that, and then you see it moving down and spreading out. So that looks very similar to what we saw then at the beginning of Sunday. So we saw in the volcano report that it was moving directly east, that big gas cloud or ash cloud. See, when I'm recording, it doesn't want to cooperate. So here's Sunday. So here's at the beginning of today what it looks like. So we can see that's not a new release. This is just left over from this other one from yesterday, the Bezimiani. But that's a lot. That's a lot of sulfur dioxide that's still dispersing and will be going through the atmosphere and breaking down into its different components. So I'm going to leave this, well, I'm going to leave this methane as a backdrop now. And I've got a few news items, but before we go there, I have a methane report from Nostradamus, aka Dave Alcock from the UK. Now remember that the methane report that he did on March the 9th, where he said the average increase for, he looked at methane for a whole week from the METOP satellites, morning and afternoon for a whole week, and he saw an increase that worked out to 4 parts per billion over that week period. And then he said he was going to keep tracking it, and I reported on March the 9th. And so now it's about a week later, and so today's the 17th, and so he left a comment under my video from yesterday and said, "Hello Margo and all good people. I have some honest reporting to share on my more detailed week-long study into atmospheric methane levels from the METOP satellites. There's been little change over the past 7 days, with the mean figure dropping by 0.5 parts per billion overall. I will continue to monitor the data on a weekly basis, especially as the concentration should be dropping more rapidly at this time of year due to seasonality. Much love, Dave." So we appreciate that report, Dave, and I'm going to talk to him about seeing if he can give us some actual data on a weekly basis rather than just saying it went up, it went down. You know, I would like to see the actual data myself, you know, just like he did in this other report that was very helpful, and I liked it that he got close to 500 HPA on all of them, and because that's the level that a lot of climate scientists kind of default to. But the problem with methane is that it's very light and it moves around real fast, and the concentrations can change real fast depending, and as it moves up into the upper layers of the atmosphere, it can get stuck in a pocket or in one over one part of the world or another part of the world at different heights. And so, you know, it's hard to do a good study like this and have really accurate data unless you have access to all of the fancy programs and stuff that the people who work for these agencies have, which I don't have and Dave doesn't have, and you know, none of us have. So we're you know, we just can do the best we can with what we've got. But I appreciate you, Dave, and for doing your weekly reports and your research and tracking this for us, and So it went down overall by 0.5 parts per billion. So so that's a good thing. And we did see that we had a reprieve in this last week. Of course, this data is a week late, but it was less coming up. We did see this in the last few days, so but it'll pick back up. You know, if you want methane, it'll be back. Okay, now I've got just like 2 or 3 news items to share, and this is my lead post. This is from Dutch Sense. He actually posted this on his Facebook page, and then he posted the link to it. And this has to do with there's been information spreading around in the last couple of weeks about a 9.0 magnitude earthquake about to hit the west coast of the USA, saying it's coming from Russian scientists and stuff like that. A lot of videos have been made and posts have been made, and you know, I really didn't know what to think about that, but he put this post up on WG1WGA.com, and apparently it's a place where you can have an account and just put up posts. So I'm thinking about getting an account here. So anyway, here I'll read the whole post. Regular social media, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube are allowing total disinformation to spread in regards to earthquakes. False reports are circulating on all social media sites saying Russian scientists are calling for a magnitude 9.0 earthquake to hit the west coast of the USA. As it turns out, the reports being circulated are from March 13th, 2011. The false report being circulated right now in 2019 is word for word the same as old fake news report from 2011. People are recycling old fake news as new fake news all at the time of the anniversary of the actual Japan 2011 megaquake. These false reports dishonor those who died in 2011 and create a scare across whole regions of the world. A quick Google search of the top paragraph of this 2019 report turns up the 2011 report. How did everyone miss this? Did no one fact-check the Russian report? I guess not. Here's the false report from 2019, published on March 6, 2019 by Mary Greeley News. And here it is, and it's published on beforeitsnews.com. And so here's the report. Putin scientists predict mega U.S. earthquake in 2 weeks, and then there's a video and everything. And it says Mary Greeley, published on March 6, 2019, from Mary Greeley News. And and then he says, and then here's the false report from 2011. And if you click on that, it's from Before It's News again. This was published on Sunday, March the 13th, 2011. It says U.S. megaquake coming, warn Russian scientists, and earthquake warning from Russian Institute of Physics of the Earth. Now remember, the Japan quake was March. Hold on. Oh, I'm back. I had a coughing fit. The Japan quake was on March 11th, 2011. So this came out on March the 13th, 2011. And if you compare, it is literally word for word the same report. Is just a few sentences moved around. And they even go into saying that Bolivia's at risk for having large earthquakes, and in both of them, and they use the same reporting guy, this Ken Ring, and so on and so forth. And they talk about the Jupiter and Saturn causing extra tides on the sun, and it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same, and I want to thank Dutch Sense for bringing this to our attention. And this, we just need to be discerning. And, I've listened to Mary Greeley, but, I haven't double checked every single one of her reports. So how do you know who to trust? This is the thing when, and some people might be reporting good news for a long time, and then they get a news story, maybe it was one of her news writers or something. I mean, I'm one person. I don't have a team. I'm one person. People will send me articles and links and things, and I'll check them out before I present them. But I don't fact check every single little thing, and so, but I do, as far as showing the earthquakes. I'm showing the earthquakes, and it's not me saying, oh, I heard this or I heard that. Occasionally I will, like with Dutch Sense, but that's because I saw the video and saw his reporting. And, or, I'll show you methane. And, so it's just so hard to know what the truth is. And so it's going to be getting harder and harder and harder. And so this is a heads up to people that, you need to be discerning. You need to do as much of your own research as possible. And if anything smells fishy or doesn't feel right, or you get a weird, it just doesn't feel right, like it just doesn't sound right, or is too sensational, or I don't know. And then also, if everybody's saying something, that's probably not going to happen. Probably that's been my experience. If everybody's saying, oh, the world's going to end on March the 20th, it's probably not going to happen. So, anyway, I just wanted to share that with all of you, and I'll leave the link below so that you can go check it out for yourself. This is from USA Today. This is a follow-up on Nebraska, on how they're suffering after the bomb cyclone. And this is from today, March 16th, 2019. Nebraska slammed by worst flooding in 50 years after massive bomb cyclone. And here's the firefighters out in one of those rafts, going around rescuing people. At least one man is dead, 2 others are missing, and nearly 900 people are inside temporary shelters amid the worst flooding in Nebraska in 50 years, following a bomb cyclone storm that wreaked havoc across the Great Plains this week. I've been reporting on this. Look at that picture. Here's a video. Let's see if we can run this. It's just a picture. Look at that. The whole... Oh, it scared me. Wow, did you see those people on top of the roofs? It's like the water is everywhere. So the National Guard is out helping to rescue people. Says Nebraska's been in a state of emergency since Tuesday due to heavy rainfalls. The massive bomb cyclone battered the central United States this week with heavy snow, howling winds, and several tornadoes. Flooding has forced evacuations in Wisconsin, South Dakota, and Minnesota as well. Stretches of interstates across Nebraska have been shut down. At least 4 bridges on state highways are washed out and damaged. The Nebraska National Guard on Saturday morning warned residents that it's still dangerous to travel despite the sun that finally appeared. They said it's still dangerous to enter any floodwaters and roads continue to be closed across the state. Well, and the floodwaters are still rising because a lot of that snow and ice is going to be melting, and that's going to add to the rising floodwaters. There's that power plant, that Cooper power plant, nuclear station near Brownville. Severe flooding in Nebraska is threatening to swamp the Cooper nuclear station near Brownville. The reactor last faced a similar threat from the rising Missouri River during the summer of 2011. Workers have been bolstering a levee with sandbags and making other preparations. So this says the photo below is false news. Cooper Nuclear Station facility is operating at full power. They have 100% access via an alternate road. We'll update the public if that situation changes. So, you know, it's hard to know. I did a search. I don't find anything new having to do with that nuclear power plant. So, the Omaha World Herald has reported 1 fatality. A farmer in the town of Columbus, James Wilkie, drove his tractor out to assist flood victims despite the howling wind and rain. 2 others are believed to be missing. Wilkie tried to cross a bridge, but it collapsed because of the tractor's weight, sending Wilkie? Now they say Wilkes, into a rising creek underneath. His body was discovered around 9 hours later near his farm. That's sad. He was always the first to go help somebody. He was a person who wouldn't just talk about making things better, he would do it. Meanwhile, a levee breach in Fremont, about 50 miles northwest of Omaha, forced evacuations in some parts of the community to seek higher ground. The Nebraska SW Iowa region of the Red Cross has set up several temporary shelters across Nebraska for people to seek refuge. Red Cross has said they've served 880 folks so far. So I'll leave the link below to that article. So we need to keep all these people in our prayers. It's going to be awful with them trying to recover and everything. And I mean, this is the beginning. This is the beginning of the kind of things that are going to be happening more and more and more around the planet. And my third article, my last one, is from The Independent out of the UK. Alarming photos reveal devastating scale of rainforest destruction in Papua New Guinea. Now, we don't hear about this very often. Exclusive impact of forest loss on communities and ecosystems revealed in series of images and footage collected by environmental campaigners. Global Witness following report on illegal logging in the South Pacific nation. This is from Wednesday, March 21st, 2018. So it's a year old, but look at the pictures there. Look at that. This is drone footage reveals the extent of forest devastation in Papua New Guinea. That's awful. One of the most biologically diverse countries in the world, the rainforests that cover much of the country and provide a home for many of its unique species are vanishing fast. By 2014, nearly one-third of the country's commercially viable forests had been logged, and demand from the global timber trade is driving further deforestation and leading to abuses of indigenous communities' rights. So where is this story? I'm going to go to Clean View. Access to log storage at Sepik River, where logs are loaded on barges carrying them to ships anchored in the Sepik River mouth. All those trees. Global Witness, supported by the People's Postcode Lottery, released photos revealing the extent of forest destruction in the South Pacific nation to mark the International Day of Forests. The organization found that tens of thousands of Papua New Guinean people are having their land stolen by their own government. Widespread abuse of a land leasing scheme has resulted in 12% of the country being given away to foreign-backed companies, either for logging or to clear the land for crops. This is just like the article that I shared yesterday about the mining in Brazil that they're going to do. Most timber from Papua New Guinea is processed in China before being sold around the world, largely for use in furniture and flooring. Last year, Global Witness released Stained Trade, a report tracing the timber supply chain spanning around 9,000 miles from Papua New Guinea's forest to retail shelves in the U.S. For the first time, the organization revealed how companies are failing to screen out illegal timber, the risk this creates for businesses in the U.S., and the impact these activities have on people in Papua New Guinea. Paul Pavel, a landowner turned activist, said the leases the government used to give away his land to foreign businesses involved fraud and forgery. He and his Mingan people have farmed, hunted, and fished the Pomio region of the country for generations. The forest is our wholesale, forest is our timber yard, forest is our freezer, forest is our supplier, said Mr. Povell. Our land provided us with food and water, protein, building material, medicines, warmth, and everything else. An area of rainforest in Pomio, half the size of London, has been cleared, producing an estimated 86 million pounds worth of timber as well as extensive palm oil plantations. Some of the illegal leases are being challenged in court, but despite repeated public commitments from the Papua New Guinean communities, for the most part such action has not been undertaken. Interviews conducted by Global Witness with villagers in Papua New Guinea revealed loss of land and forests as having extensive negative impacts for the population, including reduced access to food and clean water. Aside from the human cost, the removal of forests from Papua New Guinea is likely to severely impact the rich biodiversity found there. Researchers estimate over half of Papua New Guinea's plants and animals have yet to be described by science, and around a third of the species are likely unique to the country. In light of their work, Global Witness has made a series of recommendations to the U.S., Chinese, and Papua New Guinean governments. They've called on the international community to improve regulation of the trade in tropical timber in order to prevent the impacts on people and ecosystems revealed in Papua New Guinea. So there's that. I'll leave the link below. So again, this is Satan's hand at work, just stripping Mother Earth of her last few resources, just stripping her and hurting people and animals and taking away their habitat. It just angers me so much to see this. It's just so sad. So anyway, let's do our earthquake report and then finish up for today. We're getting kind of a late start. It's 5:53 p.m. as I start the earthquake report. So I have USGS pulled up for all magnitudes worldwide. We're seeing 213 earthquakes, 213 worldwide, which is kind of a big number for a weekend. And of those, 37 are 2.5 magnitude and higher. So this, I think I showed this earthquake yesterday. I think it was came on the map while we were doing the show, but I'll go ahead and show it. A 4.9 near Colchani, Bolivia, happened at 5:53 p.m. yesterday. It was 123 kilometers deep. I just want to get these before they go off the map. The next one that's about to come off the map is this 4.4 near Mombetsu, Japan, that happened at 5:57 yesterday, 273 kilometers deep. So that's in the ocean to the north of Hokkaido. I think that's how you say it. So there's that one. And then The next one isn't for a few hours. So those are the ones that I needed to show immediately. Let's stay down here in South America. And there's a 4.5 near Coquimbo, Chile at 7:18 this morning. So the times I'm telling you are Pacific time because that's my time zone. And then there was a 4.3 near Mexiquez, Venezuela at 12:49 this morning, 151 kilometers deep. Now this come on across down here near in the Fiji area was a 4.5 at 8:47 this morning, very deep, 535 kilometers deep. And then there was a 4.7 right next to it at 2:57 this afternoon, 513 kilometers deep. So the deeper they are, the more they will cause tectonic movement around the planet. So you can just expect to see a spreading motion with the pressure. Hold on. As this force spreads out around the planet and from the plates, and then you'll see earthquakes where these tectonic plates come together. Okay, now down here in Indonesia was a 4.2 near Dili, East Timor at 8:11 last night, 158 kilometers deep. Here's a 5.5 on land on Lombok. That's look, it looks like it's at the volcano. Here's we've talked about Lombok before. This is a volcanic island. So this happened at excuse me, 12:07 this morning, 23 kilometers deep. They're calling it near Simbalung Boom, Indonesia, but it's on Lombok. Let's look this up on Google Earth real quick. So there's the earthquake on that mountain right there. So here's Mount Rinjani. I think that's the earthquake. That's the volcano, Mount Rinjani. Yep, that's got the volcano sign on it. So it's an active volcano in Indonesia on the island of Lombok. So the earthquake was over here, right over here, not too far from there. So not too far at all. That's a little tiny island. And this looks like another volcano crater. I mean, just the shape of it. So we'll leave that for a moment. Let's see if there was any tsunami created with that. No, and we can tell the last tsunami warning anywhere in the world that was issued was on March the 13th. So that was days ago. So we're not going to worry about that. But that was a 5.5. That's pretty big. Especially being right next to that volcano. So, you know, we'll see if that sets something off. Then there was a 5.0 near Ngondokondawu, Indonesia at 10:41 this morning, 23 kilometers deep. That was on land as well. So, you know, these could cause damage, definitely. So we saw the 4.2 here. Then there was a 4.3 near Dili, East Timor at 8:07 this morning, 405 kilometers deep. So that's been active down there. Coming on around was a 4.6 in the Northern Islands Principality Mayor's Office, Northern Mariana Islands at 2:22 this morning, 155 kilometers deep. Now, coming over to the Philippines, here was one on land at 4.5 near Calanasan at 1:54 this afternoon, 43 kilometers deep. Then was a 4.8 near Ishigaki, Japan at 1:28 this afternoon, 20 kilometers deep. Here's one off the coast of Taiwan, a 4.0 near Suao, Taiwan at 5:44 this morning, 21 kilometers deep. Coming on up, here's a 4.7 in the ocean near Iwaki, Japan at 7:48 this morning. Also a 4.4 near Hachinohe, Japan at 3:53 this afternoon, 35 kilometers deep. Moving on up in this corner next to Russia was a 4.3 near Nikolsky, Russia at 4:03 this afternoon, 15 kilometers deep. So that Bezimiani volcano is right around here. Now, here was one in Greece in the ocean, a 4.9 near Zakynthos, Greece at 4:49 this morning. Next, we've got three, sorry. We've got three here on this northern mid-Atlantic ridge, just right next to each other. There was a 4.7. These two, they're calling them near the Azores Islands. This one happened at 10:45 last night. 4.6 at the northern mid-Atlantic ridge at 12:03 this morning, and then a 4.6 back near Azores Islands at 2:03 this morning. So that's where the plates meet. The North Atlantic plate and the Eurasian plate meet. wherever you see the red lines. That's where the tectonic plates meet. Now let's go to all magnitudes and go take a peek at Hawaii now. We've got 10 here on the map today. Hang on. Something's acting weird. Okay, so we're looking at Hawaii and they're showing 10 on the map here. Let's zoom in a little bit closer. Looks like the largest one is this 3.1 that happened in the ocean off the coast of Pahala. That happened at 8:34 this morning, 14 kilometers deep. That's pretty high. And then we've got a whole cluster coming down from Kilauea, it looks like. Here's Kilauea. So only one is in the crater, but we've got them all around the edges of it. So, and then up here by Mauna Loa, and then another one down here near Pahala. So let's call these off now. 1.8, 1.8, 1.7, 2.0 at a minus 0.8 kilometers depth, 2.1, 2.0, 1.8 at a minus 2.1 kilometers depth. So the earthquake was up in the chamber, in the cone there, whatever. 1.8 at a 0.1 kilometers depth. That was very shallow. 3.1, there's that one in the ocean, and a 1.9. Now, let's move on over to Dominican Republic. We're seeing 13 here today. I'll call them off. Let's see if we still got a cluster down here. It's only 3 down here on southern Puerto Rico. We've been seeing it really clustered down there. So I'll call them off now. 1.9, 1.3, 2.4, 2.7, 2.8, 2.4, 1.9, 3.1, that's the highest one right up here, and that was 145 kilometers deep. 1.8, 2.2, and 1.7. Oh, here's some more. 3.3 near Santa Barbara de Semana, Dominican Republic. 3.1, same place. So the 2.4, maybe we missed this one. 2.9 near Roadtown, British Virgin Islands. Yeah. So there's those. Now let's move on up to Alaska. We've got 54 of all magnitudes on the map for Alaska for the last 24 hours. Let's see how many of these are 2.5 magnitude and higher. The first one is a 4.0 near Adak. This is in the Aleutian Islands at 10:40 this morning, 66 kilometers deep. Here's a 3.1 at Anchorage at 12:18 this afternoon. Here's a 2.9 near Valdez at 7:04 this morning. Kobuk is still having activity. Here's a 2.8 and a 2.6. So we're going to look at all magnitudes in a second and see how many more are there. And then here's one, a 3.4 near Koktovik at 6:13 this morning. So these are areas that we see all the time. Okay, here's 2.3 near Akutan at 6:27 last night. 2.2 near Larsen Bay at 4:46 this morning. Well, it's getting clustered at Anchorage again. This one just happened, a 2.4 near Anchor Point, 5:41 this afternoon. Remember, all of these are near Redoubt volcano. 2.3 near Redoubt at 6:50 last night, 117 kilometers deep. Here's another 2.3 near Redoubt at 3:46 this morning, 90 kilometers deep. Here's a 2.2 near Redoubt at 2:01 this morning, 126 kilometers deep. A 0.4 near Redoubt at 10:29 last night, 8 kilometers deep. 1.5 near Nikiski at 6:28 this morning. 1.9 near Sterling at 10:25 last night. Here's a 2.4 near Whittier at 2:49 this morning. Here's some clusters here. There's a 2.9. We called that one out near Valdez. They also had a 1.6 there, a 1.9, a 1.7, and a 1.8, all in the same area. And then we've got this cluster in the Anchorage area. We've got 19 now. Remember, we saw like 2 here yesterday, 2 or 3. So these are ones and twos, except for that 3.1 I pointed out. And then they're peppered around in this mountain range here. Here's Kobuk. So there's 4 here. 1.7 at 0 kilometers depth. 2.6 at 0 kilometers depth. 1.6 and 2.8. And then Koktovik, it had that large one, the 3.4, but before that it had a 2.0 at 1:11 this morning. Now let's come on down into the lower 48. We've got a 3.0 to start out with at Edmond, Oklahoma at 9:49 last night, 5 kilometers deep. Next, we've got a 2.7 at Farron, or near Farron, Utah at 1:52 this afternoon, 5 kilometers deep. Yellowstone is quiet. Now remember, it's Sunday, so the earthquake makers are supposed to be at home. They're not supposed to be out doing blasting and explosions today. Doesn't mean they won't be doing it, but they're not supposed to be. Here's a 1.9 near Tanner, Washington at 8:28 this morning, and a 0.8 near Morton, Washington at 9 o'clock this morning. Then, right on this line, and this is the Juan de Fuca plate, that's right on the red line between the Pacific plate and the Juan de Fuca, was a 3.1. They're calling it near Bandon, Oregon. This is in the ocean, though, at 5:05 this morning. So that's pretty good size to happen right on that plate line. So that was at 5:05. Before that was a 2.1 down here on this red line that connects. So this is the San Andreas fault line. A 2.1, they're calling it near Petrolia, California at 1:17 this morning. Let's cover all of Northern California next. Okay, at the geysers we're showing 37 here today. Mostly two ones. Here's a 2.1. Mostly ones and under. And the rest are under that. Ones and under. But that's a bunch right there. 35. So we're seeing an uptick there. Then in Northern California we've got we've got 2 at Quincy, a 1.8 at 7:04 this morning, and a 1.0 at 9:26 this morning. This 1.0 was at 0 kilometers depth. And before that was a 1.1 near Portola at 1:04 this morning. Coming on across, we've got 2 up here in Cold Springs. We had a 0.5 at 11:25 last night, and a 0.6 at 2:35 this morning. Coming on down, there were 2 more on the south end near Cold Springs, a 0.4. First one was a 0.9 at 7:16 last night, and then a 0.4 at 12:18 this morning. And we actually had one in Reno today. I know exactly where this is too. There was a 0.3 in Reno at 10:25 last night at 0 kilometers depth. It was on North Wells Avenue, right beside or very near the livestock arena. This is the livestock arena over here, and this is North Wells Avenue, and this is Sadler Way. So it's right there on Sadler Way at a it was a 0.3, 0 kilometers depth. And if you follow North Wells around, it becomes Audi Boulevard, and that goes into Sparks as Audi Boulevard. So there's that. Let's see what else is going on in Nevada. Come on down here. 0.4 near Alamo. Here's a couple of small ones. A 0 near Pahrump, and a minus 0.2 near Pahrump. And while we're here, I'm going to cover this cluster in California near Coso. This is near Lone Pine, some of them they're calling near Beatty, some of them near Lone Pine. It's all the same area, but it's 9 here altogether, and they're small. But the largest one was pretty good sized. It was a 1.9. Then the rest were 1s and under, and it was at 0 kilometers depth. A lot of these were 0 kilometers depth, and so the first one was a 1.4 last night at 7:59 p.m. 0 kilometers depth. 1.9 at 9:09 p.m. last night, 0 kilometers depth. 0.3 at 10:05 last night, 0 kilometers depth. 1.0 at 10:06 last night, 0.1 kilometers depth. 1.2 at 10:20 last night at 0 kilometers depth. 0.3 at 10:37 last night, 1.4 kilometers depth. 0.8 at 12:12 this morning, 12.6 kilometers depth. 0.5 at 12:36 this morning, 0.2 kilometers depth, and a 1.1 at 5 o'clock this morning, 6.3 kilometers depth. So that's quite a few to have clustered right there. Then we've got this cluster down by Goldfield. Remember, we had a whole bunch down there last week. So we got 5 here. It started up again. I'll call them off. 0.7, 1.2, look at 0 kilometers depth again. 0.6, 1.2, and 1.1. So there's that. So that covers Nevada. Let's come on up into Mammoth Lakes now. We're showing 3 here today, a 0.5, 1.6, and a 1.7. Okay, we got the geysers. Now let's come down the San Andreas fault line. Here's a 2.2 near Pinnacles at 7:05 last night. 1.4 near San Lucas at 11:59 last night. 1.7 at Huron at 4:26 this afternoon. Then coming on down, here's Coso Junction. We've got a 1.3 and a 1.8, a 0.5, 0.6, and a 0.7, all near Coso Junction. Here's a 1.0 near Lake Isabel. Here's a 1.6 near Bodfish. Here's a 1.5 near Tehachapi. And they had to do a quarry blast today at Boren, California. It caused a 1.5 magnitude earthquake at 4:29 this afternoon at 0.3 kilometers depth. Couldn't even let one day go by without a quarry blast. Here's a 1.5 near Castaic. Now we're coming into Southern California. So let's see how many are on the map here. We've got 34 total on the map. So, but we've got activities. See all the red ones? They've come in probably just since I started the report. Yeah, here's a 0.7 near Valley Center at 5:31. So these are small, but it's showing lots of activity. A 1.4 near Anza. Here's Kauai. It's picking back up. See it's clustering again. So in this whole Kauai area, we've got 16, including these around there. So these are all pretty small. But the small ones count. The small ones lead to bigger ones. That's what we've seen. So people do need to have an earthquake plan. They need to have a disaster plan. They need to have some food and water stored up in case you're without power for a period of time. Canned food, so that you can just open it up and eat it out of the can. You don't have to heat it up even. And a way to, if your toilet doesn't work, you can have a little porta potty and set that up and use that. And I mean, there are things you can do to get prepared. And flashlights, lanterns, solar powered things. Also wind up. I have a wind up shortwave radio. I have a wind up flashlight. So you need candles, you need blankets, and if you're not too far apart from each other in the city with a friend or a relative, you can get walkie-talkies and just make sure they're charged up, or you got batteries to put in them, and make sure you practice ahead of time so you know how to use them. And that's another way you can communicate if everything goes out. So let's see what happened up here. 2.4 near anchor point. That came in at 541. I showed that. So I think that's a wrap. Yeah, we got everything. So I love you guys. I think we're in the end times, and time is real short. And I'm praying for everybody to get right with God and Jesus. And until next time, God bless you. Go in peace, and good night.